Have you ever had someone in your life who always made you feel small? Someone who seemed perfect on the outside but hid a darker side behind closed doors? For years, I let my stepsister Samantha walk all over me, mocking me, belittling me, and making me feel like I'd never measure up. But what if I told you that the person who spent years tearing me down wasn't as perfect as she wanted everyone to believe? This is the story of how I uncovered her darkest secrets and finally stood up for myself in front of my entire family, and trust me, she never saw it coming. The smell of grilled meat and the sound of laughter filled the air as I stood awkwardly in the corner of my mother's backyard, clutching a glass of lemonade like it was a shield. Another family reunion, another chance for my stepsister Samantha to remind everyone how much better she was than me. My name is Lila. I'm 28 years old and I manage a small bookstore in town. It's not glamorous, but I love it. Samantha, on the other hand, is 32, works in real estate, and never misses an opportunity to flaunt her so-called success. She's the golden child of the family, or at least that's how she wants everyone to see her. Lila! Samantha's voice rang out, loud enough to turn heads. I froze, already bracing myself for whatever was coming. I was just telling everyone about your job at the bookstore. It must be so relaxing, not having to worry about deadlines or, real responsibilities. A few polite chuckles rippled through the group. I forced a smile, the kind that didn't reach my eyes. Well, at least I don't have to deal with angry clients calling me at all hours, I replied, trying to keep my tone light. Samantha's perfectly manicured hand waved dismissively. Oh, I thrive under pressure, you know me, but it's good you've found something that suits you. Before I could respond, my mother, Diane, appeared at my side, her face tight with concern. Lila, honey, don't take it personally. Samantha's just trying to include you in the conversation. Include me? I muttered under my breath. Is that what we're calling public humiliation now? Samantha sauntered over, her signature smirk firmly in place. Come on, Lila. You know I'm just teasing. You're so sensitive sometimes. I clenched my glass tighter, feeling the familiar sting of frustration. This wasn't new. Samantha had been like this for as long as I could remember, always finding ways to make me feel small, to remind me that I'd never measure up to her. As the afternoon dragged on, I found myself retreating further into the background, watching Samantha hold court with her stories of high-stakes deals and luxury clients. Everyone hung on her every word, just like they always did. But something about today felt different. Maybe it was the way she'd singled me out in front of everyone, or maybe I was just tired of pretending it didn't bother me. Either way, I could feel something shifting inside me. I didn't know it yet, but this family reunion was about to change everything. I was standing near the drink table, trying to avoid Samantha's gaze, when I heard a familiar voice behind me. Layla, is that you? I turned around and saw Ethan, an old friend from high school. He looked almost the same, tall, with an easy smile and a sharpness in his eyes that I'd always admired. Ethan, what are you doing here? I asked, genuinely surprised. I'm Mom's friends with your stepdad, he explained, grabbing a soda. She dragged me along. I didn't know you'd be here. We started catching up, and for the first time all afternoon, I felt like I could breathe. Ethan told me about his job in finance and how he'd recently left a company where, coincidentally, Samantha had worked as a consultant. Wait, I said, narrowing my eyes. You worked with Samantha? Ethan's smile faded slightly. Yeah, for a while. She's something else. I raised an eyebrow. What do you mean? He hesitated, glancing around to make sure no one was listening. Look, I don't want to stir up drama, but let's just say your stepsister isn't as squeaky clean as she pretends to be. There were issues at the company, financial ones. And Samantha was right in the middle of it. My heart skipped a beat. What kind of issues? Ethan leaned in closer, lowering his voice. She was involved in some shady real estate deals, selling properties that didn't meet legal requirements, overcharging clients and pocketing the difference. It was bad enough that the company had to quietly settle with a few clients to avoid lawsuits. I stared at him, trying to process what he was saying. Samantha? The perfect, untouchable Samantha? Well, didn't anyone report her? I asked. She's smart, Ethan said bitterly. She covered her tracks well and made sure to pin the blame on others. A few people tried to speak up, but they either got fired or were pressured into staying quiet. I felt a mix of shock and anger bubbling up inside me. All these years, Samantha had acted like she was better than everyone else, like she was untouchable, and now I was learning that her success was built on lies. "Where are you telling me this?" I asked. Ethan shrugged. "Because I saw the way she treated you earlier. She's a bully, Lila, and people like her don't stop until someone stands up to them." I looked over at Samantha, who was laughing loudly with a group of relatives. She looked so confident, so untouchable, but now, for the first time, I saw cracks in her perfect facade. "I don't know," I said hesitantly. "Even if I wanted to do something, what could I do? She's got everyone wrapped around her finger." "You don't have to do it alone," Ethan said firmly. "I still have some of the documents from the company. If you're willing to stand up to her, I'll help you." Before I could respond, my best friend Mia appeared, holding a plate of food. "What's going on?" she asked, sensing the tension. I quickly filled her in, and her eyes widened. "Leela, this is your chance," she said. "You've been letting her walk all over you for years. If Ethan has proof, you can finally expose her for who she really is." I hesitated, the weight of the decision pressing down on me. "But what about my mom? She's always defending Samantha. If I do this, it'll tear the family apart." Mia put a hand on my shoulder. "Your mom deserves to know the truth. And so does everyone else Samantha has hurt." Ethan nodded. "You don't have to decide right now, but if you want to do this, I'm in. Just say the word." I glanced back at Samantha, who was now bragging about a huge deal she'd just closed. The anger inside me flared again. "I'll think about it," I said finally. But deep down, I already knew. I was done letting Samantha control the narrative. It was time to take a stand. That night, I couldn't sleep. Ethan's words kept replaying in my head, and every time I thought about Samantha's smug face, my anger grew. She had spent years tearing me down, making me feel small, and now I knew the truth. Her success wasn't real. It was built on lies, manipulation, and hurting others. By morning, I had made up my mind. I wasn't going to let her get away with it anymore. I called Ethan first. "I'm in," I said, my voice steady. "Good," he replied. "I'll pull together everything I have, but if we're going to do this, we need to be smart. Samantha's not the type to go down without a fight." Next, I called Mia. As a lawyer, she was the perfect person to help us figure out how to handle this. We met at a small cafe later that day, and Ethan brought a folder full of documents. "These are transaction records from the company," Ethan explained, spreading the papers out on the table. "They show how Samantha funneled money from fake real estate deals into her personal accounts. It's all here: dates, amounts, even client names." Mia scanned the documents, her brow furrowing. "This is solid," she said, "but if we're going to confront her, we need to do it in a way that leaves no room for her to deny it. She's going to try to spin this, make it look like she's the victim." "Somebody to do?" I asked. Mia leaned back in her chair, thinking. "We need to present this in front of people who matter, people she can't manipulate or intimidate. What's the next big family event?" I thought for a moment. "The anniversary party. My mom and stepdad are hosting it next weekend. Everyone will be there." Mia nodded. "Perfect. We'll confront her there, in front of the whole family. but we need to be prepared. Ethan, can you organize these documents into a clear presentation, something that's easy for everyone to understand? Already on it, Ethan said, pulling out his laptop. And Lila, Mia continued, you need to be ready to stand your ground. Samantha's going to come at you hard. She'll try to make you look like the bad guy. I swallowed hard, the weight of what I was about to do sinking in. I can handle it, I said, more to convince myself than anyone else. Over the next few days, we worked tirelessly to prepare. Ethan created a detailed presentation, complete with charts and screenshots of the transactions. Mia helped me rehearse what I would say, making sure I stayed calm and focused. But as the party approached, my nerves started to get the better of me. What if this backfired? What if no one believed me? The night before the party, Mia called me. You've got this, Lila, she said firmly. You're not just doing this for yourself. You're doing it for everyone Samantha has hurt. Remember that. Her words gave me the strength I needed. The day of the party arrived, and my stomach was in knots as I helped my mom set up the backyard. She was in her usual cheerful mood, completely unaware of what was about to happen. Samantha's bringing her new boyfriend, she said, arranging a tray of appetizers. He's a lawyer, very successful. Please be nice to him, Lila. Of course, I said, forcing a smile. By the time the guests started arriving, I was a bundle of nerves. Ethan and Mia showed up early, and we huddled in a corner to go over the plan one last time. Are you ready? Ethan asked. As ready as I'll ever be, I replied. Samantha arrived fashionably late, as usual, with her boyfriend in tow. She was all smiles, greeting everyone like she was the star of the show. When she spotted me, her smile turned into a smirk. Lila, she said, pulling me into a quick hug. You look comfortable. Still working at that little bookstore? I clenched my jaw but forced myself to stay calm. Yes, I am, and I love it. Good for you, she said, her tone dripping with condescension. I glanced at Ethan and Mia, who gave me subtle nods. It was time. As the party settled into its usual rhythm, I stood up and cleared my throat. Excuse me, everyone, I said, my voice shaking slightly. I have something important to share. All eyes turned to me, including Samantha's. She looked mildly annoyed, like I was interrupting her spotlight. What's this about, Lila? She asked, her tone sharp. I took a deep breath. It's about you, Samantha, and the truth about your so-called success. The backyard fell silent. Ethan stepped forward, holding up a folder. We have evidence that Samantha has been involved in fraudulent real estate deals, stealing money from clients and covering it up. Samantha's face went pale, but she quickly recovered, laughing nervously. This is ridiculous. Lila, what are you talking about? Mia stepped in, her voice calm and authoritative. We have transaction records, client complaints, and even emails that prove your involvement, Samantha. Would you like us to show everyone? Samantha's smile faltered. This is a family gathering, not a courtroom. I don't know what you're trying to pull, but... Stop lying, Samantha, I said, my voice stronger now. You've been lying to everyone for years. It's time they knew the truth. Ethan opened his laptop, and the first slide of the presentation appeared on the screen. The evidence was undeniable. The backyard was so quiet you could hear the faint hum of the grill in the distance. All eyes were on Ethan's laptop as he began scrolling through the presentation. Samantha stood frozen, her confident demeanor cracking with every passing second. This, Ethan began, pointing to the screen, is a record of a transaction Samantha facilitated last year. She sold a property to a client for $450,000, but the property was later found to have multiple code violations. The client was forced to pay thousands in repairs, and Samantha pocketed an extra $20,000 by falsifying the paperwork. Gasps rippled through the crowd. My mom, who had been standing near the drink table, looked completely stunned. Samantha, "Is this true?" she asked, her voice trembling. Samantha let out a nervous laugh, waving her hand dismissively. "This is ridiculous. Lila, I don't know what kind of stunt you're trying to pull, but this is all fake. You're just jealous of my success." Mia stepped forward, her expression calm but firm. "It's not fake, Samantha. These documents were obtained legally and they match the records from your former company. We also have emails where you instructed your team to hide these violations from clients." Ethan clicked to the next slide, showing a series of emails with Samantha's name clearly visible. The words, "Keep this quiet," and "We can't afford another complaint" were highlighted in bold. Samantha's face turned red. "This is a violation of my privacy. You can't just dig through my personal business like this." I stepped forward, my voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through me. "You've been violating people's trust for years, Samantha. You've lied, cheated, and bullied your way to the top, and I'm done letting you get away with it." Her eyes narrowed, and for a moment I saw the real Samantha, the one who had spent years tearing me down. "You think you're so righteous, don't you, Lila? You're just bitter because you'll never be as successful as me." I felt a surge of anger, but kept my composure. "Success built on lies isn't success, Samantha. It's fraud, and it's time everyone saw you for who you really are." Ethan clicked to the final slide, which showed a list of clients who had filed complaints against Samantha's company. "These are just a few of the people Samantha has hurt," he said. "Some of them lost their life savings because of her schemes." The crowd erupted into murmurs. Relatives who had always admired Samantha now looked at her with suspicion and disappointment. My stepdad Greg stepped forward, his face a mix of anger and disbelief. "Samantha, is this true? Did you really do all of this?" Samantha's confident facade finally crumbled. I didn't mean for it to get out of hand," she stammered. "I was under a lot of pressure at work. Everyone was doing it." "That doesn't make it right," Greg said, his voice cold. "You've embarrassed this family and hurt innocent people. How could you?" My mom, Diane, looked like she was about to cry. "Samantha, I defended you. I believed in you. How could you lie to us like this?" Samantha turned to me, her eyes blazing with anger. "This is your fault, Lila. You've always been jealous of me. You couldn't stand that I was better than you, so you had to ruin my life." I took a deep breath, refusing to let her words get to me. "This isn't about jealousy, Samantha. It's about accountability. You've hurt too many people, and it's time you faced the consequences." Mia stepped in again, her voice calm but firm. "Samantha, I suggest you stop talking. The more you try to deflect, the worse this will get for you. You should be thinking about how to make things right, not blaming others." Samantha looked around, realizing that no one was coming to her defense. The family that had always adored her was now staring at her with disappointment and anger. "I didn't mean for it to go this far," she said quietly, her voice breaking. I wanted to be successful. I wanted people to respect me." "Respect isn't something you can steal, Samantha," I said. "It's something you earn, and you've lost it." The confrontation ended with Samantha storming out of the party, her boyfriend trailing behind her. The atmosphere was tense, but there was also a sense of relief, like a weight had been lifted. My mom pulled me aside, her eyes filled with tears. "Lila, I'm so sorry," she said. "I didn't realize how much Samantha's behavior was hurting you. I should have stood up for you more." "It's okay, Mom," I said, hugging her. "I just needed you to see the truth." Greg approached me next, his expression serious. "Lila, I owe you an apology too. I've always been so proud of Samantha, but I see now that I was blind to her flaws. Thank you for having the courage to do what none of us could." Ethan and Mia stayed by my side, offering their support as the rest of the family tried to process what had just happened. For the first time in years, I felt like I wasn't alone. The days following the party were a whirlwind. Word spread quickly through the family about what had happened, and Samantha's carefully constructed image began to crumble. My mom and stepdad, still reeling from the revelations, decided to confront Samantha privately. According to Greg, she admitted to some of the accusations, but continued to downplay her role, blaming the company and claiming she was just following orders. But the evidence was too damning to ignore. Ethan had already shared the documents with a few of Samantha's former clients who were now considering legal action. Mia, ever the professional, offered to help them navigate the process. Samantha's boyfriend, the lawyer she had brought to the party, broke up with her shortly after. Apparently, he didn't want to be associated with someone facing potential lawsuits and investigations. As for the family, the fallout was significant. Samantha had always been the golden child, the one everyone looked up to. Now she was the subject of hushed conversations and disappointed glances. Relatives who had once idolized her were now questioning everything they thought they knew about her. My mom struggled the most. She had always defended Samantha, always believed in her. Seeing her daughter's true colors was devastating. But to her credit, she didn't try to excuse Samantha's actions. Instead, she focused on repairing her relationship with me. One evening, about a week after the party, she invited me over for dinner. As we sat at the kitchen table, she reached across and took my hand. Lila, she said, her voice heavy with emotion. I want you to know how proud I am of you. It couldn't have been easy to stand up to Samantha like that, but you did the right thing. I'm sorry I didn't see it sooner. Her words brought tears to my eyes. For so long I had felt invisible in my own family, overshadowed by Samantha's larger-than-life presence. Hearing my mom acknowledge my strength meant more than I could put into words. Thank you, Mom, I said, squeezing her hand. I just hope this helps her realize she needs to change. I hope so too, she said softly. Meanwhile, I started to notice changes in myself. For the first time in years, I felt confident, like I had finally taken control of my own story. I wasn't just Lila, the quiet one, anymore. I was someone who stood up for what was right, even when it was hard. A few weeks after the party, life started to settle down. Samantha had gone quiet, avoiding family gatherings and social media altogether. From what I heard, she was dealing with the fallout of her actions. Former clients were pursuing legal action, and her reputation in the real estate world was in shambles. As for me, things were finally looking up. Ethan, true to his word, had introduced me to a friend of his who worked at a publishing house. After a few conversations, they offered me a part-time position helping to curate and promote new book releases. It wasn't a huge leap from my job at the bookstore, but it was a step in the right direction, and it felt like a fresh start. One evening, I invited Ethan and Mia over to celebrate. We sat in my small living room, laughing and reminiscing about everything that had happened. I still can't believe you did it, Ethan said, raising his glass. You stood up to Samantha in front of the whole family. That takes guts. I couldn't have done it without you two, I said, smiling. You gave me the courage to finally stand up for myself. Mia grinned. Well, you didn't just stand up for yourself. You stood up for everyone Samantha hurt. That's something to be proud of. As I sat there, surrounded by people who truly cared about me, I realized how much had changed. For years, I had let Samantha's words and actions define me, but now I felt free. Free to be myself, free to pursue my own path, and free from the shadow of her constant criticism. The experience had been painful, but it had also taught me an important lesson. Standing up for the truth, no matter how hard it is always worth it. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like I was finally stepping into my own light.